of football talk. Welcome to the Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV, channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download the app, make sure you rate and leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV Sticks, Roku Sticks, and now and also on all smart TVs. Now on Football Talk, joining me is David Morassutti and another special guest visit from Eduardo Harari. Gentlemen, good evening.
Good evening.
Evening.
I'm wearing my Terrell Owens jersey.
It's like not only do you wear a 49ers jersey to and that hurts, but you wear a 49ers Terrell Owens jersey. Oh,
1999. Well, no, I think he started in 98.
good question.
I think.
Did
I'm
you
not
hear
sure.
he still
I'm
believes
pretty sure this jersey's from before 2000.
Well, he started in San Francisco in 96.
Okay. There you go.
So he was with San Fran from 96 to 2003. So that
There you go.
jersey falls in line in that time. Those are, I will say, those were great jerseys.
Yeah, well, I like it. I got the dress shirt underneath. Was I pulling for them? Not necessarily. I'm a Cowboy fan from childhood. Was a Cowboy fan growing up as a kid. But I also like the Niners, and I also
Why
like.
didn't you tell me to steer clear, Frank?
Huh?
Why didn't you tell me to steer clear of this team for the sake of my own sanity?
Well, I was kind of hoping they'd, we can start with their disappointment if you want to start with their disappointment. I mean, first of all, I was 0 for 2 on Sunday, but I was 2 for 2 on Saturday. No. Yeah, I was 2 for 2 on Saturday, 0 for 2 on Sunday.
Those were more predictable on Saturday.
Yeah, well, that's the only reason I got them right is because they were predictable. And nothing to do with knowing what I'm talking about. It was just freakish. It was a couple of weeks since. You want to start with that game, or do we want to start with the Bills?
No. Let's I want to rip my Band-Aid off right away. I don't want to prolong the suffering.
Okay, so we're going to go the 49ers, Cowboys, 19-12 49ers. The score wasn't really indicative of the game, was it?
No, it wasn't. I mean, people will harp. I will say this: people will harp on the Cowboys. 49ers didn't have to do much to win that game. Like they were, I thought they were in trouble because they could not put the ball in the end zone. And what was so infuriating is that you hold their best players. You have Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey. You hold those guys to 70 combined yards. Those are the two players I was most worried about going into this game. The Dallas defense had arguably its best game of the season against a really good team. And you just need your offense to score more than 20 points. And it could not score more than 20 points. The Seattle Seahawks scored more points than the Dallas Cowboys.
And I thought Dak Prescott was on a roll. I went for the Cowboys only because he was on a roll. That's the one thing that's been missing with the Cowboys. I'm going to say in the most recent history, actually under his reign, Dak Prescott has not risen to what most people believed he could rise to. He has, I don't think being a disappointment's a fair characterization, but pretty close, David. If you're a Cowboy fan, I think you're starting to think Dak Prescott maybe isn't the guy.
So my feeling is Dak Prescott isn't the problem. The problem is how the team is built around him, in that Jerry Jones decided we're going to give Dak Prescott elite quarterback money, but then we're going to make sure he's surrounded with average players. I'm sorry, like people are saying, oh, he's no Joe Burrow. He's no let's say Patrick Mahomes. Well, I'm sorry, Joe Burrow has. If I would say this, if Dak Prescott had the players that Joe Burrow had, I wouldn't say he's going to be Joe Burrow exactly, but he is going to be a much better quarterback. This Dallas team decided to do what a lot of teams do, and it gets them in trouble. Pay their quarterback early, which means, oh, we can't keep the receiver that's going to make him good in Amari Cooper. We overpaid for running back who was a workhorse when he first came, but age and injuries are catching up to him. The defense was good enough. Like they were able to put together an elite defense, but that offense, there was only one player that Dak Prescott could trust in that game, and that was CeeDee Lamb. Dalton Schultz, he had a very disappointing game for me. Michael Gallup, I didn't like giving a long-term extension contract to a player coming off a major knee injury. I get they brought him in hoping he would be a number 2 at a cheaper cost than Amari Cooper, but two totally different receivers as well. Like this is just Jerry Jones making more questionable decisions, and it's a wheel. It's a wheel that's just gonna keep going in the same direction until something fundamentally with this team changes.
I think what you're saying, what I'm hearing, is that San Francisco is everything the Dallas Cowboys isn't.
Exactly.
They've got a decent quarterback, a rookie, only the 5th quarterback to make it as a rookie this far. He has some fair statistics, and unfortunately, the team around the Cowboys, I think I'm inclined to agree with you that maybe Dak Prescott is maybe financially too well paid, and it's not. I guess it's not the same for the players around him. What do you think, Eduardo?
Well, and I'm a Dallas fan, so I have died
Oh
and
boy, there's 3 of us here.
yeah, I mean, I live and die with this team. I have lived and died with this team for as long as can remember.
Well,
But
then
I
you've died and died with this team for as long as you can remember.
that's right. Well, actually, I actually saw a couple of good games. Some the times that I have been to Dallas, so I have seen a couple of amazing games in Dallas. But no, we haven't had anything since Mr. White left Dallas. We haven't had any type of success.
When you have a football person making football decisions, it makes your team a good team. When you have an owner who has an ego and thinking he can build a football team and not like, look, Jerry Jones can take credit when the Cowboys win a Super Bowl anytime he wants. Just bring in somebody that is going to help you make smart football decisions. But he's never going to. This is the problem. Jerry's not losing money. He's okay with this because if he wasn't okay with this, something would have changed.
he he is the total opposite of Mr. Steinbrenner. Completely the opposite. Steinbrenner wasn't a baseball guy, but was an owner that wanted to win. Jerry Jerry Jones is a football guy that doesn't know what the hell he's doing.
Well, I think here's the way I'm going to describe Jerry Jones. He's a guy who hires people to do a job and doesn't let them do it.
Not letting them do it to their full capabilities.
He's not letting them do it because the job requires a plan, and 2 people can't work on the same plan. I don't care. You can be on the same page, but when you're both using different books, when you've got a GM that's using, or a coach, they're using their books. An owner can't use all those books. There's too much. He tries doing too much. He tries. I'm surprised the water boy isn't second guessed. He's too deeply involved with the team. He's down on the field. I mean, his presence alone, David, he doesn't have to say anything. Just the fact that he's on the sideline, to me, is a bad move for an owner.
Frank, how many NFL owners have their own press conference scheduled after every game?
He's
How
it.
many general managers in the NFL have a press conference scheduled after every game?
I don't believe there is a single general manager that does that.
This is what look at times. Jerry Jones can now try his best to deflect any attention onto himself. I guarantee that's part of the reason. The other reason is he is the Dallas Cowboys. This is what he has created. Look,
Absolutely, because you're 100% right, because even him trying to deflect attention would attract attention because it would be a change. There's nothing he can do that doesn't draw attention and isn't newsworthy. At the end of the day, that's what it comes down to, is that somehow he has to end up in a black box where he doesn't say anything for like a year, and until he doesn't get involved, it's just too bad. Is it his fault, or are we blaming the wrong guy? It really doesn't matter. In my my street valued learning as far as sports are concerned, I firmly believe championships are won by great players picked by general managers, coached by coaches that the owners picked the GM to do the job and provide everything around the GM to do his job. Not information, not decisions, just the proper tools. There is a pecking order to make a championship team. There are not champion. Eduardo mentioned Steinbrenner. But Steinbrenner got involved publicly mostly with BS. What he got involved with was not really, as far as I'm concerned, some people might disagree with you, Eduardo, that Steinbrenner didn't get involved. He got involved with the team a lot as far as, the antics with Billy Martin, his public statements, his dissatisfaction with a team that doesn't finish first and win the World Series. Based on what you said, always wanted to win. But the point is, I don't think he got involved in the inner workings of the team other than to throw more money at them.
Yeah, no, and that's what I'm saying. He threw money the right way. He brought the best personnel possible at the right times, and as he said in many occasions, the players did deliver what he put on the product that he had on the field. But and we were talking with David prior to the show, and one of the things that this game disillusioned me is the first time that I see Dak Prescott, okay, without an urgency. You are 2 games away from Super Bowl, and this guy was as relaxed as you could be. It was like it wasn't with him. The game was not with him, and it just didn't click with me. I mean, if there is a sense of urgency to beat your division leader, it's at this game, and he was just sitting in the pocket, running out of like. I mean, I don't understand. He sat on the pocket so much time, with so much time to think, that it made it unreal.
This is
Lamb was the only one that played a great game.
Lamb on offense. Yeah, I'll tell you this. What summarized the game for me for this offense? It was the second last drive of the game. So I think it was just before the 2-minute warning, or Dak Prescott first pass almost gets intercepted, and it would have been a pick six that would have ended the game. And then he tried to throw it 2 more times, and nothing came out of it. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was Dak Prescott just mentally shutting down. But, I mean, the play of the game, really the turning point of the game was his second interception, where Dallas has a chance to put points on the board before the end of the first half. The San Francisco 49ers intercept the ball and they turn that into 7 points. Game was done. At that point, San Francisco's like, you're making mistakes. We're not making mistakes. We're winning this game.
And you give that defense a lead like that.
Yeah. And the offensive line's like, all right, good. Now all I have to do is just run the ball, protect the ball, and kill the clock. And I'll give Kyle Shanahan credit. He finally learned from the 28-3 collapse from when he was with Atlanta of how to
Oh,
hold on to a lead in a playoff game.
oh, absolutely. Okay, let's put a pin in the Dallas game there, and San Francisco full value for the victory. Let's go to Buffalo and the Bengals. This was a game that we all remember a few weeks ago, the game where we had a major incident, a health concern, a health issue, emotional follow up of games. The Bills were fired up and ready to go in the next game. Remember the two runbacks, the kick returns for touchdowns. The Bills were fired up. Unfortunately, that was one. I really believe this, David, that this is a team that had too many emotional peaks and challenges this year between the games that were canceled because of snow and finally that last event. This was the season for the Buffalo Bills. Their quarterback established that he is one of the best quarterbacks, and last year was a season that ended with a lot of fire and emotion to get back there. I think it was just too much for Buffalo. They started flat. I don't want to take anything from Cincinnati, but I mean, when they get 9 first downs and you get none, you want to talk about the game being over early?
Well, I mean, Cincinnati, this was a game that, snow coming down, you think that both teams will be trying to figure things out. Cincinnati was unfazed by the
Totally
change
unfazed.
of the weather. And you know why? Because Cincinnati, and Eduardo and I were talking about this before the show started, and it was, we have a running back the Buffalo Bills do not. We have a running game that can make the Buffalo Bills guess on what we're trying to do. You know what the Cincinnati Bengals knew? The Bills aren't running the ball because Josh Allen is the only guy who will run the ball, and he did his best when the team needed to try to move the chains. He tried to do it with his legs, but they knew that Josh Allen was going to have to try to throw the ball to win this game. And in a game like that, where the snow is a problem, players were having a hard time getting their footing, especially the Bills. That was pretty bad. But Cincinnati knew that they needed to mix things up on offense, and the Bills, until they figure out that a running game is crucial to be successful in the NFL, they're going to continue to see the same results. And they got too bogged down on what Josh Allen did last year against Kansas City and thinking that he could win a game because he showed that he came that close to being Patrick Mahomes. But but every year is different. And my final point, the Bengals in the trenches won the game. And I did not
Absolutely.
expect that to be the case because that was always Cincinnati's biggest problem, is whether they would be able to protect Joe Burrow and get to Josh Allen and they did both of that. And I give the Bengals a lot of credit. They're playing championship style football right now.
Eduardo, what I if I were to define Josh Allen's game, he wasn't a factor, not a negative or a positive factor. He was a zero factor.
The thing, and remember, when we did our analysis last Thursday, I said Buffalo was going to lose this game if they didn't get up for the game. The problem with Buffalo is they didn't show up to the field. They did not show up to the field. They had all the motivation possible with what happened to their teammate. They had the motivation that they beat Miami by a squeak. They knew what they had to do. They were at home for crying out loud. How can you lose a divisional championship in your own home like that? There is no way. And in top of that, I mean, Joe Burrows was just phenomenal. You would he didn't stay put. He he tricked them in every way. When they thought that they were going, Cincinnati was running the ball. He threw it, and vice versa. He had the game controlled from minute one. And the defensive team that came out with the Bengals was probably their best performance since last year in the Super Bowl.
Probably even better. They looked as good as they've ever looked. In my opinion, they were a machine out there, and you're right, David. Physically, they literally beat up the Buffalo Bills line, both lines actually. I think the defensive line, the offensive line for them was for the Bengals was the big difference in this game.
I no, I really do. They finally realized what cost them the Super Bowl last year. Joe Burrow not having time in the pocket to make throws, right? Aaron Donald and Von Miller were, if you remember that Super Bowl, they were the story of the Super Bowl for the Rams, right? And so you have this great arsenal of weapons for Joe Burrow, but it means nothing if Joe Burrow doesn't have the time to use those weapons. And getting the running game going certainly does help take the
It's
pressure
important.
off the offensive line. I'm very excited about what this team can do because I truly believe that this team, if they replicate what they've done so far in the playoffs, now it's weird because they looked so much better against the Bills than they did the Ravens, and the Ravens are not a very good team in comparison to the Bills. I think that makes them even more dangerous going forward.
Ravens are historically a good playoff football team. They play well in the playoffs. They're very respectable. I'll give you the closing comments on that game with the Buffalo Bills. Well, we can talk if we have some time left. We can talk about the two games that will be played to decide the Super Bowl finalists. Go ahead. You can say the last word on this, Eduardo.
So I'll just say one word. Cincinnati is the team to beat moving forward because they are going to, yes, they are facing Mr. Wonderful in Kansas City, but watch out because if you underestimate Burrows and the Bengals, you are going to face the same thing that the Buffalo Bills faced. A team that has tenacity, a team that will do what they have to do to win a ball game and remain consistent. I mean, that's the only thing I can say. Consistency won the game.
Okay, we'll put a pin in that and refresh everybody's memory, your opinion on when we talk about the future game. Let's talk about the Chiefs and Jags. Kansas City has a quarterback that's hurting a little bit. You know, Mahomes has played injured before, David. I don't know. We don't know his condition and what it'll be. He's young. Recovery is a little easier the younger you are. But we'll find out. His health matters. And in winning this game, the Jaguars, I don't know. Well, why don't you tell us what you think? What do you think of this KC Jaguar game?
Oh, well, I mean, I was very concerned about Mahomes. Like, when you're hobbling like that, it doesn't look good. He's a quarterback that does rely on being able to extend plays a little bit in the pocket, right? So the injury concerned me in that regard. But he's also just such a tough he's such a tough quarterback. Like, it doesn't he really, like, he showed why he is, like, where he is in point of his career by being able to stay in a game like that. Um, I'm concerned that a better defensive line will give him problems because I don't know how he's going to be able to It's a high ankle sprain. That's not an easy injury to recover from, right? Now he does get that extra day of rest because he played on the Saturday, but they're gonna have to figure something out to get him going. Now, Chad Henne, I'll give him credit. Guy has barely played. He takes him down for a 98-yard touchdown drive. Like that's what good teams can do is they can plug a guy in. But yeah, if Patrick Mahomes doesn't stay in that game, that's a tough game for the Chiefs to win. He just makes that team that much better. There's a reason why he's given the contract he's given. He's that vital to that team's success, and we saw it in this game, and you know, we'll see.
Well, there's two things that 98-yard tour de force prove, and that is that you have to have a quarterback who's ready to do that and a system that can prop him up and give him a chance to do it. Kansas City's a pretty good team. It's not surprising that you can put another quarterback in there temporarily. We've talked about this with the Argos and the Toronto Argonauts and them winning the Grey Cup. If Kelly comes in normally, maybe he doesn't play as well. The surprise moment, having a quarterback come in for a short moment, a moment that nobody predicted he'd be able to come in. So, predictability has its advantages, but it's also a disadvantage when you don't have predictability. So, yeah, Eduardo, in this game, Mahomes is the guy. He's the guy that needs to be healthy. The tougher the opposition, next week is not going to be like this past week or the week before that. Mahomes is going to be up against Jeff Burrows. We talk about three quarterbacks that are going to be there for a few years that'll be fighting over this game every year. We saw one, Josh, he's gone. And then now you got Burrows and Mahomes, the two guys in the American Conference that will be leading their teams to games like this a lot. So I don't know. What do you think of Mahomes, and what do you think of this game? And did it surprise you in any way?
So I have to say something very rash. I have never been a Pat Mahomes guy. I think that he is, although people will tell me no, I think he's overrated. He is overrated, overpaid. Yes, he's made it to Super Bowls, but so how many? The question is, what has he done for me lately, as the wonderful song says, by Jackson? He hasn't done anything. I mean, I rather have Brady at this point in time. Mahomes hasn't done literally squat since his Super Bowl appearance. And the Kansas City Chiefs live and die by Pat Mahomes. And it's sad. It's sad because they put too much onus on him, and the pressure is beyond real. And especially since he's now an owner as well, it doesn't make it easier when you are the guy that has to rake in the money for the team. So I don't know. It's just difficult for me to comprehend what that is, and I don't see them. Like I said, I don't see them getting beyond. I don't see them going to the Super Bowl.
What do you think, David? I mean, it's fair to say that they might not make the Super Bowl, considering Burrows is healthy and Mahomes is not. That could be a factor. I don't really agree with you, Eduardo, on the level of importance that Mahomes is to his team and to the game and as a quarterback. I mean, I don't know many quarterbacks that can do what he does. He reminds me of Flutie a little bit. He reminds me of those quarterbacks that make something out of nothing. He's a guy who does that often. And when we talk about his feet, and David, this is the important thing about his feet. He uses all the footwork any quarterback has ever used.
Yeah.
So, so his footwork is very important. He relies on being on the back foot, on the front foot, on 2 feet, on tippy toes, on his heels. He uses every square inch of his feet, and both of them independently and together.
So this is what I'll say about Patrick Mahomes. He has done a lot of extraordinary things so far in his career. He was passed over by a few teams too. The Chiefs were smart in what they did and how they got him. Now, saying that as soon as they handed him that contract, he had to now figure out ways to elevate this team, right? The fact is they haven't dropped off since he signed that contract. But was his 4 straight years they've been in the championship
Yep.
game. Him and Travis Kelce are the most dangerous duo right now. Like, I think since Brady Gronkowski in terms of quarterback to tight end. There's no other team in the NFL that has that sort of dynamic. That's what gives Kansas City that much success, is because those two are just on such on like the same wavelength. They're so good together. But yeah, but Mahomes also puts himself in these situations where sometimes he tries to do too much, and it can cost you. But he also knows he's very capable of making the plays that other quarterbacks just aren't able to make. So
Absolutely.
while I do think the Bengals should be the favorites going into this game, and I have every faith that they likely are going to the Super Bowl, I still can never doubt Patrick Mahomes just because of what he has accomplished and how he has accomplished it as well. Like, I remember that Super Bowl that he won. They were dead in the water against San Francisco. And the one big play changed the entire game because he got the confidence he needed to will that team back. So I can't fully count out Patrick Mahomes until
To,
until the
to,
game is done, because
to, under, to understand how great he is and how important he is to Kansas City as an organization, they never hosted an AFC championship game until he came. So, in other words, that Kansas City team never rose to that kind of height until he came. So, it doesn't. I can't disagree with Eduardo's theme that he hasn't proven to be, his wins have not proven to be as good as maybe we think of him. You know what I mean? We haven't seen his best yet in the biggest game of the year. We saw it once, but when we talk about the Kansas City Chiefs, we're on the verge of talking about the Cincinnati Bengals the way we talk about San Francisco, the way we talk about Kansas City. These teams have played and won championships and look like they're never going to lose a championship. But he has lost a championship. This is a year for him to prove how good he and his team are, because they have had disappointments too, David, in defense of what Eduardo's saying.
Yeah, and look, Eduardo is also very right in saying that he's looked good, and he's also had his down moments too, right? When I look at last year, the Bengals did, like, he's when I think about what happened in last year's game with the AFC Championship game, and some people were thinking that a lot of people were in no way, shape, or form giving the Bengals any chance in that game because of Patrick Mahomes. That's the presence he has. And what that does to a team like the Bengals is say, sure, you guys can count us out, and we're just going to find a way to just go under the radar and win. Patrick Mahomes now has that label of he has to deliver because he is the mecca in terms of quarterbacks in this league. He has to constantly deliver under that pressure.
Absolutely.
Sometimes it gets, and look, he came into the season losing his best outside of Travis Kelce. He lost his 1A, 1B option in Tyreek Hill. and he still found a way to lead that team to a number one seed. That's not an easy feat.
Absolutely not.
But yeah, no, I mean,
You know what the biggest challenge he has? I'll word it this way. He has to overcome the shadow that his reputation casts. His reputation is so high and long and wide. Even he has a challenge getting out from under his own shadow. Because everybody expects so much from him, David, and that's what leads to the kind of why I agree with Eduardo and his disappointment. It's not because he is not one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. It's because he's held at such a high level, and if he doesn't win a championship, that's a disappointment and that's a failure. Imagine that. That's how important we think he is.
Let's remember when Tom Brady went down to Tampa, everyone said there is no chance Tom Brady will make it to Super Bowl because he has to face Mahomes at the end. And no one gave Tom Brady, the guy that won more Super Bowls than he could win. You know what I mean? And and that was a Mahomes put down when Brady went to Super Bowl and he didn't. And every year after that, Mahomes has been. I won't say he has not been productive because he has been productive, but he hasn't been the same guy that controlled the way the game went. And he's starting to realize that he has to have his offense intact and healthy for him to win. And that's what it comes down to. He's not Tom Brady that he will go out there and play injured and still win games because Tom Brady has a horseshoe in his ass that makes him win. But
Absolutely. Okay, well, let's leave it there and let's just try to get this Eagles Giants game. Were you surprised how easily the Eagles dealt the Giants this loss?
no,
yeah,
not at all. Um, the Eagles have been doing this to a lot of teams this season. As a Cowboys fan, I hate to give the Eagles any credit, but they've been doing it the right way. Good pass rush, good secondary, and the offense. I mean, they have so many weapons on that offense. Like the Eagles are doing it the right way. The Giants,
260 yards rushing. You talk about the running game?
yeah, right. So the Giants went into this game. I think people were pumping up the Giants too much,
Well, they
and
did win an important game that many people didn't think they could
yeah,
win.
bro, they deserve some of the praise they're getting. The problem was people then were like, oh, Daniel Jones is really proven to be like a top 10 quarterback in this league. And I'm just like, let's cool it just a little bit here because I knew that they were gonna have troubles with the Eagles just because the Eagles have had their number and they just had all the right ingredients to win that game. And so yeah, I still think that game didn't surprise me. I thought maybe the Giants would have put up a bigger fight in that first half, but what the Eagles did though was we're not giving them any chance.
No.
We're not giving them any chance. They smelled blood right at the beginning and they stomped on them. And you don't see that often. But that's what good teams can do when given the opportunity.
Yeah, it felt like 1970 and the running game, Franco Harris. It was you want offense, but this was old fashioned offense. Eduardo, what do you think?
look, I I was disappointed with the Giants because I thought that they could do more than the 7 points that they scored. I thought that it was going to be a tighter. Like let's put it this way, a tighter game, not a, a run over by the Eagles. I thought that they would play their structured defense that they played all season long, run the ball the way they ran the ball. It was the first time that I saw the Eagles go over the air so much. They didn't play the running game. They didn't play a constant running game that as they have been playing all season long, and scrapping in the trenches. And that's what surprised me a lot. But it's
It
a
is what it
it's a
is.
learning experience for the Giants. I think the Giants next season will be a lot better than they a lot better, and come into a frame of mind in the playoffs of what they have to do to get to the next stage.
Okay, before we go there, I want to leave it a pin in there, and we got a couple of minutes left, guys. If it gives us an opportunity to talk about each series, I'll start with San Francisco. Um, I like what they're going to do, and that young quarterback has proven to me he can do it. Um, I'm not sure that he can. It's going to be a little tougher against this week's opponent.
It's going to be tougher if San Francisco isn't able to win the battle in the trenches. They're going to have a really tough time because I don't think they have the secondary that can go up against this Eagles offense, but they do have the pass rush that the Giants don't have. They have the linebackers that the Giants like. They have a better defense than the Giants, and they should have a better offense. They're just gonna have to go with a different game plan because the Eagles will see what the Cowboys did, and they're gonna say we can do that, and we can do much better on offense because we feel we have better weapons
And
on
the run.
offense. So,
And the run.
yeah, and they got a quarterback that will run a lot more. They've no. I will say Jalen Hurts' injury is still a concern for them. It wasn't a concern in this game because they were able to ensure it wasn't going to be a concern, but I would say that there's it's going to be a little bit closer than I think for the Eagles this time around, but they got the right recipe to beat this San Fran team.
Okay, Eduardo, I'll give you 30 seconds on this game.
Nothing else. Eagles all the way. I mean, I don't see San Francisco uh, being beating the Eagles. I think if we look man by man in both lines, the Eagles are just overpowering. That San Francisco knows how to scrap in divisional games. I'll give them credit for that. They are a scrappy team and they know how to fight, but they are going into enemy territory and it's not going to be an easy fight.
Okay, pin it there. As far as Cincinnati and Kansas City are concerned, we're going to see two quarterbacks. We're probably going to see another repeat of the aerial battle we saw last year, and it's going to be. I think it's going to come down to what it has in the past, and that is the last team with the with last possession that's going to win that game. What do you think, David?
Yeah, no, I do think I think it's gonna be a close. That one's gonna be a close game too. If Patrick Mahomes can show that his injury isn't a concern, this is a close game. But if the Bengals smell blood, they're gonna go right for him. And I mean, they're really gonna try their best to make Travis Kelsey not be the X factor. They're gonna have to force Mahomes to find other guys to win this game. But yeah, I'm still leaning towards the Bengals, but I think it's going to be a close one, and I think the Bengals have proven that they can win these close games.
Eduardo, we have no time left, but you can have the last word on this.
Burrows goes to Super Bowl again, and this time with no difficulty and with more experience, probably he will win it.
Well, gentlemen, thank you for this. We'll leave it there. Thank you, David Morassutti and Eduardo Harari, for being here.
Thank you as always, Frank.
For you guys, And folks out there watching, I'm Candid Frank Stanisci. Thank you for watching Football Talk, airing live on Mondays at 9 p.m. This show can also be heard on the Spanglish World Radio Network for football talk, news, entertainment, and other sports programming we offer. Check out spanglishworld.ca. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thanks for watching, everybody.